Coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. This is TV47 News Tonight. It is the 24th day of January 2023, and it is also the International Day of Education, and surprisingly the day that the late Professor George Magoha has left us. Let us take a look at the headlines first. Tonight, country in mourning after immediate former Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha passes on in Nairobi. Also tonight, tributes stream in as Kenyans from all walks of life mourn the passing of Professor George Magoha. Plus, immediate former IBC chair Wafula Chebukati now claims government attempted to bribe the commission in order to announce Raila as the winner of the August 2022 general elections.
They introduced the purpose of the visit. They wanted to discuss about the tallying and the ongoing process. And I then told them if that's the case, then I'll ask the commissioners to join us in the meeting, because it's a matter then that would involve the whole commission.
Right, welcome to the broadcast. This is the 24th day of January 2023. Catherine Simelo is on the sign language docket. My name is Stanley Nyeringit, and as I had updated you, it is news that we have been following up on since this particular evening, the demise of the former Cabinet Secretary of Education, who collapsed 4 times before passing on. This is according to a close colleague, Professor Walter Mwanda. Now, speaking at Lee funeral on Tuesday evening, Mwanda stated that Magoha was rushed to the Nairobi Hospital Accident and Emergency Wing, but efforts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful. And I'm being told that we do have a very own Flora Lemuki, who is at the Lee funeral home. Flora, if you can get me, what is the latest?
Well, a very good evening to you, Stanley Nyaringeta. Not quite a good evening here in Lee Funeral Home, and also for the nation. This is following the passing on of Professor George Magoha, who was formerly the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Remember, he has been eulogized as a very strict CS, and also a CS who has been at the forefront of making strong education reforms while he was the chairperson of the Kenya National Examination Council, that is the NEC. Remember, during this time, there were the cases of education of exam irregularities were not as many during his period. And also Magoha, it is quite a sad evening here, and also a wake for the Magoha family. Remember, his brother Magoha also is supposed to be buried this Saturday, and earlier on the family were here to bring in his body, that is his wife and the son. And remember, according to his Dr. Walter Mwanda, who is also a close ally of Magoha and who has spent the rest of the better part of the day with Magoha, also during his last minutes, explained to us that the former CS had a cardiac arrest that led to his death earlier today. And he also let us know that Magoha collapsed at least 4 times today. And also, remember, Magoha, some of the greatest things that is being remembered of, he was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. Remember, this is where he led. During his time, there were quite a number of riots and strikes at the University of Nairobi, but he was able to curb this during his period. And remember, it is quite a sad day for the educationists as well as the nation, and also educationists who are mourning Magoha this specific day. Remember, before his death, before he passed on today, he had also been appointed as the chairman of to head the School of Medicine at the Maseno University. And also now we are continuing to follow up just what is developing on, and as people continue to eulogize this great person that has served the nation in the education sector. And remember, Magoha, as I earlier stated, it is quite a sad year, and also quite, remember last year, it's also the same time that he lost his brother, and therefore it is quite a sad period technically for Magoha's family, and we continue to follow up on what is building up as people continue to stream in to eulogize this great educationist, Stanley.
Right, our very own Flora Limuki right there at the Lee Funeral Home. Thank you for that, Flora Limuki, and she'll definitely be keeping her eyes and ears open to just update us on what is happening at the Lee Funeral Home and the updates that will be coming in, and the leaders and also the close friends and families on that particular matter. Now, as the country has been thrown into mourning by the sudden demise of former Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha, a senior education reporter, Sharon Beranga, shed some light into the life and times of the late professor, especially during his tenure as the chief of the ministry under the Jubilee regime.
He joined the Ministry of Education in 2019 when there was a back and forth between a section of education stakeholders and the government concerning the competency-based curriculum. Known for his tough talk and resilience, Magoha took over as the driver of the ministry from CS Amina Mohammed.
My statement to the country today is perhaps the most solemn and significant since I joined this ministry more than 3 years ago.
Magoha took over the ministry when the education sector was undergoing a number of reforms.
It is the last examination which is being released under the Jubilee administration of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, a regime that has seen a 6-year run of the most clean and flawless national examination campaigns that have restored the integrity and credibility of our national certification system.
When it came to the competency-based curriculum, he fought hard to drown the voices coming from concerned parties. He is well known for the statement, "The train has left the station."
As a government, we have done everything possible to midwife the transition of 844 to CBC. So far, the CBC has successfully been implemented up to grade 5. Next month, by the grace of God, the pioneers will join grade 6 and sit for their first national assessment later this year. These children have already spent 8 years in the competency-based curriculum.
Well, the CS was not a favorite when it came to a section of education stakeholders. A number of times in his speeches, he always invoked the president's name.
I want to thank the president for offering the ministry all the support out of the broad that has enabled us to carry the broad reforms.
And he has an advice for the person who will take over from him.
All these preparations, ladies and gentlemen, make me extremely comfortable that my successor will find a good script to follow in the CBC implementation. But I want to dare say once again that this ministry is not a ministry for the faint-hearted. The education ministry is not a ministry for the faint-hearted, starting from Jogo House to the field and to your house.
Magoha's tenure at the Ministry of Education ends with the current government.
As I prepare to hand over the basic education mantle to my successor, which only God knows, I am proud of my record, and I remain confident that the lady or gentleman who will come after me will find a comfortable place to continue from. That is not to say that Jogo House is a place that is easy to work in. It is a place which does not require people who do not have a hardened heart and the personality to fight corruption.
Before his appointment as Education CS, he served as chairman of Kenya National Examination Council in 2016, and he was also a vice-chancellor at the University of Nairobi. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Indeed, remembering this man, Professor George Magoha. And a question to the audience this particular evening: how will you remember the late Professor George Magoha? I'm pretty sure a journalist right now is saying he was a man who was a timekeeper. If he said a meeting is at 6:30 at the KICD, it was at 6:30, and he'll start definitely talking. And speaking of matters remembering him, leaders and national leaders, including President William Ruto, has paid his tribute, and also Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and also Azimio leader Raila Odinga. But then also before that, we'll definitely be getting all that particular tributes for you. But then let's cross over to Mombasa, where the MP Kieni Njoroge Wainaina is on standby to actually pay his tributes for that. Remember, in Mombasa, it is the National Assembly House Committee's induction. Let's cross over there live and listen in.
Okay, I'm Njoroge Wainaina, Member of Parliament for Kieni. I have received with great shock, and I want to pass my condolences to the family of the late Waziri George Magoha. I have known him not through by meetings, but by his works, by his transformational leadership that he has shown into this country. And for those who would want to know Magoha, I would want to invite them to read his works. He has written one of the best books on leadership. The book is Transformational Leadership, how he transformed. First of all, he's a trailblazer. When he went to Nigeria for his undergraduate and master's degree, he was chosen as the best leader in Nigerian universities. This is Ibadan University. This is where he studied, according to his book. And I think he's a natural leader that home away in Nigeria, the Nigerians saw the leadership in him, and he was a student leader for both the Nigerian and the other Africans who are in that university at that time. And when he came back to Kenya, he did not only offer services to the people of this country, but he's most remembered for the transformational leadership he gave to the Kenya National Examination Council, and of course to the Minister of Education. He sanitized the degrees. Otherwise, our educational system was collapsing. Our certificates were no longer recognizable elsewhere. He brought sanity. He sanitized the education sector. And later, he is the grandfather to the CBC. He was very passionate about the CPC, and I'm happy that every person is now trying to understand CBC and embracing it, including the present government, who have really embraced it and supporting it. Watoto wamefiliwa, watoto wale wa CBC, babu yao amekufa, ni kama babu yao amewaga. He's a good man, and I really want to challenge that other leaders in this country leave us with a lot of minds through such articulated book like the one that Magoha gave us. We shall forever remain we shall always remain grateful to him. And if you want to give anybody a present, particularly those budding leaders, just buy him that book, Transformational Leadership by Magoha. Give to him, tell him to read it, understand leadership from the point of view.
That is Njoroge Wainaina, the Member of Parliament for Kieni, who is in Mombasa, just paying his particular tributes. And remember, as I told you, the President William Ruto and obviously Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and Azimio leader Raila Odinga have also paid the tributes. And the question that I'd posed to you earlier was, how will you remember Professor George Magoha? As I told you earlier, remember, journalists also have their own remembrance, a man who kept time. And let us take a look at some of those particular tributes. I believe this is by President William Ruto. It is a great story about the passing of Professor George Magoha. It is towering. He was a towering giant of right. Let me start from the top. I have learned with great sorrow about the passing of Professor George Magoha. EGH Professor George Magoha is a towering giant of our time, a great man who stood tall in the academy, where he excelled in learning, teaching and research, as well as in administration, where he led robust turnaround interventions at the University of Nairobi and the Exams Council of Kenya. Professor Magoha also famously served as a CS for education. And throughout his tenure, he envisaged commitment to high standards in the public service and an uncompromising integrity. I have been privileged to know and work with the late professor in many capacities, from the university where I completed my postgraduate studies to government, where he served with a distinction as the chair of the Kenya National Examinations Council and later as my colleague in cabinet. We have lost a gifted, unique, distinguished and a great servant of Kenya. I join Kenyans and people from other parts of the world in mourning the passing of Professor Magoha. I also send condolences to his family and pray that Almighty God grants them divine comfort and grace in this moment of grief. That is the particular tribute by President William Ruto. Let us take a look at the tribute by leader of ODM, that is Raila Odinga. Says, and I quote, "I am deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Professor George Magoha, a transformational leader, illustrious scholar, dedicated public servant, and distinguished medical doctor who left an indelible mark on our country's education system. We will remember him for his incredible intellect, wit, and ability to inspire and challenge us to do our best. My condolences go out to his family and colleagues. May he rest in eternal peace." Right, I believe we do have another one. All right, Professor Simon Gisharu. The education fraternity has lost an icon who believed in the sanctity of education. Professor was a strict professional who did not condone mediocrity. His legacy will live on. The Mount Kenya University fraternity joins the country in mourning the fallen hero. May his soul rest in peace, and may God grant his loved ones the strength to overcome the difficult moments. That is Professor Simon Gisharu, who is the chairman of the board of directors of Mount Kenya University. Keep talking to us on our socials at TV47KE and tell us how will you remember the Professor George Magoha. Let's take a look at the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi. "I have received the death of Professor George Magoha with utter surprise and shock. The late Professor Magoha will be remembered as a staunch believer in self-actualization. He took to his tasks with gusto and a single-minded determination that's rare. Now, many will recall his ironclad grip on the University of Nairobi as Vice-Chancellor and lately as Cabinet Secretary for Education." That is Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Let us see if there is another one. Remember, you can always, keep talking to us and tell us, how will you remember late Professor George Magoha? Now, right, the Cabinet Secretary of Matters ICT, that is Eliud Owalo. Eliud Owalo says, "I have learned with shock and disbelief of the passing of Professor George Magoha a short while ago. He'll be remembered as a focused professional in his field and as a candid stickler for discipline and efficiency in institutional leadership and management. He'll be sadly missed." Right, those particular keywords there, if you actually notice, discipline and matters timekeeping. That is one particular thing that for those who have actually, who actually interacted with Professor George Magoha can actually attest to his matters discipline and matters timekeeping. Journalists will also tell you, those who actually interacted with him, that if you ask him one particular question, he'll answer you that directly, that particular question. I don't know if we have any other tributes. Right, we'll definitely be keeping up to speed on matters, what those particular tributes are.
Professor George Magoha.
And the former Cabinet Secretary of Education collapsed 4 times before passing on. This is according to a close colleague, Professor Walter Mwanda. Speaking at the Lee Funeral Home, Professor Mwanda also said that basically Magoha was rushed to the Nairobi Hospital Accident and Emergency Wing, but efforts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful. While speaking to the media at the Lee Funeral Home, Professor Walter Mwanda, a close colleague, reminisced the moments before the demise of the former Cabinet Secretary of Education, George Magoha.
Professor Walter Mwanda, the departed Professor George Omore Magoha, was my great friend, mentor, colleague in all aspects. At around 3 o'clock today, I got a phone call from the wife that she needed me urgently. I was in a clinic at the Kenyatta National Hospital. I was seeing a patient, and I called a colleague to take over. I rushed to my car. When as I was driving away from Kenyatta, about 4 kilometers, she called again and asked me whether I had a blood pressure machine. I told her I would get one. I rushed back to my clinic, got a blood pressure machine. As I was about 4 kilometers to the home, she SMS and asked me whether I could get an ambulance. And I was too close to home, their home. There was a traffic jam. They drove right to the home. At the gate, I met some attendants who rushed me in. I met the son at the door who rushed me straight to where he was.
According to Mwanda, Magoha was taken to the Nairobi Hospital after collapsing at home.
He went into a car, and the wife and my driver, we followed. They were ahead of us about 200 meters. They reached about 10 minutes earlier than us. From the information, he had what we call a collapse. He was resuscitated back by the son, who is a medical doctor. And then 100 meters to the casualty of the Nairobi hospital, he collapsed again, was rushed to casualty. There was resuscitation, which took quite a bit of time, but they were not able to revive him. That was a short message. What I know is that I must say he was waiting for me, because he had told me some things about his life and his final days. And that has been fulfilled, and I shall continue doing so.
A statement by the Nairobi hospital details that the efforts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful.
2 weeks we have been communicating, but he's been extremely busy. I must say, for the first time, he didn't reply to my call on Saturday. But then later on, I called him using another number, and we discussed the way forward with regards to the arrangement of his brother's death.
Mwanda, who refers Magoha as a mentor, has stated that the former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nairobi was making arrangements for the burial of his brother, Richard Alex Nyabera Magoha, who passed away last year on the 6th of December. Professor George Magoha has passed on the day the world is marking the International Day of Education. Paul Kirobi now takes us through Magoha's life journey.
Professor George Magoha, Professor of Surgery at the Maseno University School of Medicine, was born in 1952 in Kisumu County. He would later on moved in with his older brother John Obare and his wife Agatha Christine Obare to Nairobi County, where he later grew up in Jerusalem Eastlands in Nairobi County. When he came to Nairobi, he attended Dr. David Livingstone Primary School in Nairobi County before joining Starehe Boys Center School, where he passed very well, and later on joined the Strathmore School for his A-level, where he completed his O-level studies. His studies took him through the University Teaching Hospital in Nigeria before moving to postgraduate medical school in the United Kingdom. He would later on serve as a professor of surgery at Maseno University School of Medicine after serving as a cabinet secretary for education between the year 2019 to 2022, when former President Uhuru Kenyatta completed his term. Earlier on, he was the chairman of the Kenya National Examinations Council between the year 2016 to 2019, before serving as the Vice Chancellor, University of Nairobi, between the year 2005 and 2015. His immediate task as the chairman of NEC was to reform the council to arrest the widespread academic dishonesty and corruption in the administration of national examinations.
If you have a friend who agrees with you all the time, that person is a fool. Because a normal person should be telling you what you don't want to hear.
His most remarkable achievement at the University of Nairobi was instituting discipline among the academic staff, non-teaching staff and the students. 10 years he served as the Vice-Chancellor. The students went on strike fewer times than before his time in office. After serving in different capacities in the education sector, he was appointed as the Cabinet Secretary of Education under the leadership of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, having been appointed in the year 2019. Magoha was sworn in on March 26, 2019, replacing Amina Mohamed, who was transferred to the sports docket. Magoha was married to Dr. Barbara Magoha, and together they had one child, Michael Magoha. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Very much appreciated for that, Paul Kirobi. And remember, keep talking to us on our socials. How will you remember Professor George Magoha? And just a quick one here. On behalf of the National Parents Association of Kenya, that is NPA, I wish to convey our sincere condolences to the family of Honorable Professor Magoha, former CS Education, following his sudden and untimely death. It's a big loss to this nation, which can hardly be replaced. Honorable Magoha shall remain to be remembered for his spirit of hard work and determination. It is unfortunate that he has followed his brother, who is yet to be buried. May God rest their souls in everlasting peace. That is Silas David Obuhatsa, the national chairman of the Parents Association. We take a short break. You're watching TV47 News Tonight. We'll be right back.
Wedding's around the corner, so I've arranged for us to go out of town this weekend.
Kwani mara yako wapi?
You have the right to men's sex.
He kissed me in front of his wife.
10 bob, I'm a 10k. Umalani.
Okay.
Are you looking for a distinguished institution of academic and professional excellence to kickstart your career? Then join KIPS Technical College, a top-NEC, CASNEB and NEET examination center in Kenya that is fully accredited by TVET Authority with over 90% national exam pass rate. We offer high-quality, hands-on training in engineering, hospitality, tourism, journalism, ICT, business, accounting, hairdressing and beauty, health sciences, community development and foreign language, and have placed over 26,000 graduates since 1994. Our state-of-the-art equipment, well-equipped workshops, indoor and outdoor sports facilities make us the preferred choice.
During my training, I was able to become a SCIPS, which has helped me to achieve my goals in community development.
Admissions for January 2023 intake is ongoing. For more information, call 0720-813-113 or visit any of our 6 campuses located within Nairobi. KIPS Technical College, your sure path to success.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Tryson School of Medical Health Science and Technology is a premier training institute for market-driven courses. With state-of-the-art facilities, competent and dedicated members of staff, and linkages with the medical industry, you are assured of a bright future when you study with us. Enroll today in our campuses at Juja, Nairobi West, Kisumu, and Homa Bay.
Usienda nayo huko ndani, unaacha hapo kwa lake ndio uingie.
Ni wacho kwa lake namna gani nataka kutumia huko ndani? Nimekuja na hii gani ndio inatumika? Hii paketi ama hii kuchota? Kwani serious hii? Bwana wacheni mchezo bwana. Nini?
Karibu customer. Hizi bidhaa unaziacha pale kwenye lage ndipo ufanye shopping kwa supermarket yetu. Kuchota ni kufanya shopping pekee.
Ni kufanya shopping.
Maana Hetia Supermarket ndio best. Kwa mara nyingine tena, Hetia Supermarket inakuletea chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket. Kushiriki shindano la chota tuwe Nawe, Kitale, Bungoma, Eldoret, Kakamega, Kisumu, Busia, Naivasha, Limuru, Nairobi, Thika, Nyeri, Meru, Chuka na Maua. Nunua bidhaa ya shilingi 600 na zaidi na utapewa raffle ticket. Jaza vizuri na utumbukize kwa sanduku iliyo mlangoni. Utakuwa umeingia kwa draw ya kujishindia zawadi Dahatsumira, pikipiki 21 aina ya TVS, 1130 school fees, TVS, shopping vouchers na vingine vingi.
Bas, ni huku. Saidia mimi.
Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Iwe Bacon, Savannah Juice Fruit Vial, My Choice Hand Wash, Zesta Choco Primo, Ketepa, Blue Band, Aramco, Oven Fresh Bread, Nivea, Silent Night Mattresses, Coca-Cola pamoja na Hisense. Shindano hili limeidhinishwa na BCLB permit number 002816. Sheria na masharti kutumika.
Chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket, na hii motokaa kari smart kabisa inaweza kuwa yako. Unangoja nini? Ingia, fanya shopping yako Hetia Supermarket, uchoto kuchote na hii kari. Hii motokaa inaweza kuwa yako. Mtu anaweza pesa kwa buti.
Hetia Supermarket, a world of choice.
Imagine starting your academic journey here at the foot of Mount Kenya. A place where you can call home. A place where we celebrate our diversity and uniqueness. A place where you can be at your best, at work and at play. That place is Embu College. There's no better place to make the difference than Embu College. Karibu Embu College, where a holistic education matters.
All right, welcome back. This is TV47 News Tonight. I can see some of your feedback right here, TV47 News and TV47 News KE, that is TV47 KE, that is on Facebook, on Matters. The question that I had asked you earlier, how will you remember Professor George Magoha? I'll be sampling some of them later on, but first, Matters Classrooms. The government has prohibited schools from selling school uniforms as it moves to crack down on suppliers colluding with learning institutions to overcharge parents. This as the Minister of Education has directed primary schools to include the junior secondary school initials in their names.
It is now illegal for schools to sell school uniforms. This is according to Trade Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, who said schools have no business selling uniforms and should instead focus on academics.
Our schools have got no business selling uniforms. Our teachers need to focus on academia and helping our children to transition to CBC and other objectives that the ministry has set.
This in a move to crack down on suppliers colluding with learning institutions to overcharge parents. The Ministry of Education at the same time has warned school heads against directing parents on where to purchase uniforms.
Our parents have got absolute freedom and discretion on where to buy uniform. So when you hear that a school is selling uniform, ask them, where are the sewing machines? How are your tailors? Who is being employed from this school?
The Ministry of Education has released guidelines for implementation of junior secondary education. Under the new guidelines, schools with both primary and secondary shall adopt the name of the primary school in which they are domiciled and revise their names to include the junior secondary school initials except in special circumstances. For instance, a school currently named Lengaju Primary School shall adopt Lengaju Primary and Junior Secondary School as its name. To ensure financial management of public junior secondary schools in the transition period, the ministry says there will be two separate bank accounts for junior and primary school sections. The ministry has further adjusted the 2023 school calendar, making changes to the duration of the national exams. KCPE and KIPSEA will begin on November 30th and end on November 2nd. Students writing KCSE will also sit the exams from November 3rd to November 24th, contrary to the initial calendar that showed KCSE would take place from November 10th to December 1st. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
All right, meanwhile, members of parliament have once again boycotted the workshop over the disbursement of CDF funds. The leaders have also cleared the air, saying that the move is not politically motivated, while they want the government to act fast or else they cease from any parliamentary business.
For the second day now, members of parliament have stormed out from their induction retreat in Mombasa over the delayed disbursement of the CDF funds, citing that it impedes critical functions, including disbursement of bursaries to needy students.
It is pure balderdash to come and entertain nonsensical, comical, and ridiculous activities being done here while our people are suffering. I know what it means to lack school fees.
Kumekuwa na kiangazi kikubwa, mifugo wamekufa, wale wazazi hawana chochote cha kupeleka watoto shule. Na serikali inatuambia inataka 100% transition. Watoto wa maskini watasoma aje? Watalipa karo na nini? Washa hata karo, watoto wanaenda shule, hamna chakula shuleni. Kwa hivyo tunasema hivi kama wabunge, priorities ya serikali ni upside down. Wanaanza na vitu ambazo si za maana sana, lakini ile pesa ambaye inamfikia mwananchi wa kawaida ndizo zinakosa.
They have threatened to grind all parliamentary businesses to a halt and not attend the ongoing induction, citing that the government has neglected its mandate with only 4 months remaining before the closure of the current financial year.
Without that funding in our accounts, we are unable to operate, and it is that reason that we have felt that it will actually be difficult for business of the day to continue without an assurance that we are going to get those funds in our accounts.
In addition, they have slammed an attempt by the government to stop them from boycotting the workshop, while declaring that the move is not politically instigated.
We have been given communication from Treasury whereby the PS does not have an answer on this issue. And we want to be very categorical. Without CDF money for schools, for the poor children to go back to school, we have no business to discuss anything.
That PS, he has no information. Because when he came to request us to proceed with the meeting, and he has no solution. He is not part of the solution, he is part of the problem. And they ought to have projected ahead the money that was supposed to be given to us.
Paul, Monyo TV 47.
And away from the corridors of the 13th Parliament, the return of street protests and rallies by Azimio Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga on Monday is a well-choreographed script rehearsed for decades by the opposition leader against former presidents Daniel Moi, Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta, which all resulted in cooperation and handshakes of sorts. President William Ruto has, however, vowed to end what he calls a tired Odinga script, raising the question of whether he will succeed where his predecessors have failed. Apol Kumar reports.
Azimio Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga's homecoming rally at Kamukuji grounds in Nairobi on Monday was not only a show of defiance, but an acid test for President William Ruto on how he handles the veteran opposition leader who has secured 3 handshakes with the country's 3 former presidents.
Hata baba yao Nyayo walikuwa hawezi kunitisha mimi. Najua kwamba mimi ninaenda jela mara 3.
Wamezoea hiyo tabia, lakini we are telling them the end has come. There is no more. Ile mulipata kwa vitisho sasa iwatoshe. Wacha sasa tufanyie kazi wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Hatuwezi kuwa tunashughulikia watu 5, 6, 10 kila mwaka nenda miaka rudi. Ati kwa sababu wanataka kutupangia maandamano.
The August 9 presidential election setting President William Ruto apart from his predecessors in a case of a student outsmarting the teacher when he beat Odinga and retired President Uhuru Kenyatta in the polls. Will the president also set a new record by putting to an end Odinga's era of handshakes, despite the 2 men dismissing a handshake as a pipe dream? Or will the president cave in to Odinga's pressure?
When he became a member of parliament up to now, he has never lost a single thing. And I'm telling you, even the way he's going to plan for Raila, he's going to tame him properly. Raila Odinga is going to be tamed by Ruto.
that the government they are dealing with has no legitimacy. Is Raila Odinga likely to go and be sworn in as the people's president? What will be the end game if Raila Odinga decides to take that angle?
Raila is also his teacher, and he outsmarted him in getting elected. The question is whether the teacher has found new ammunition to fix the student.
During late President Moi's regime, Odinga, who came third in the 1997 general election, surprised friend and foe when he met Moi at his Kabarak home, securing the first handshake in Kasarani in the year 1998, only for his entry to lead to Kanu's downfall after Moi failed to nominate him as his successor in the lead-up to the 2002 general election. During late President Mwai Kibaki's regime, a fallout over government positions and Kibaki's defeat in the 2005 referendum heightened political temperatures, leading to the bloody 2007 general election. Another handshake was midwifed by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan between Odinga and Kibaki. In 2017, Odinga secured his third handshake with retired President Uhuru Kenyatta after Odinga sworn himself in at Uhuru Park while leading a resistance that divided the country down the middle. Until the various handshakes, Ruto's predecessors used police force to counter Odinga's rallies and street protests. For President William Ruto, it's a different script. He has given Odinga's peace and security to conduct his rallies, raising questions about how long this will last. With odds heavily stacked against President William Ruto going by history, will the president cause an upset by setting his own precedent against Odinga? Apul Kamau, TV47 in Nairobi.
I appreciate for that. Apoli Kamau. Wafula Chebukati seemingly holding nothing back, where he shared his truth on what transpired at the National Tallying Center, painting a picture to the events that led to the fallout of the poll agency into two. The Aggrey Muchelule-led tribunal patiently lent their ear for the second day running as the remnant commissioners, now retired, told on the Cherera 4 as part of their testimony as they appeared as witnesses. Tuesday, Chebukati making a damning revelation that a team led by Raphael Tuju offered to bribe them. Our very own Moiga William was keeping tabs with the proceedings and filed the following report.
To God, that the
10 a.m. and Wafula Chebukati made his way before the Justice Aggrey Muchelule-led tribunal to give his side of the story on the conduct of the 4 dissenting commissioners, 3 who have since resigned. Chebukati, who received both praise and condemnation in equal measure, did not hold back speaking about the events just before the declaration of William Ruto as president-elect, when the breakaway commissioners led by Juliana Cherera disputed the results. For the first time, Chebukati says it was all rosy until the 15th of August, just before they got some unexpected guest.
They came in. Actually, I didn't say yes they should come in, but they came in just like that, uninvited. They just walked in. Honorable Raphael Tuju, he was at that point in time a cabinet secretary in the previous government, and he came there on behalf of the Azimio party.
While laying it all bare, Chebukati, in his usual demeanor, even stated that they were promised hefty bribes if they agreed to tinker with the presidential results in favor of the Azimio candidate Raila Odinga.
Also, Honorable Tuju spoke. He said that it was necessary that we moderate these results in favor of Baba, and that any contrary declaration of results would plunge the country into chaos. The person who spoke these words was Raphael Tuju, and that's what he said. That we consider the request, then we shall be rewarded. You shall be rewarded. Yes.
A scenario that led to a split within the commission.
The commissioner must sit alongside the others, said this message requires serious consideration, and she supported the adoption of the communication.
Later on, another team comprising of some members of the Assumption of Office Committee visited IBC with a list of demands to the Commission.
The team leader, Mr. Kennedy Kihara, introduced the team of the 4, introduced himself, and the participants, Mr. Kenneth Ogeto, Solicitor General, Mr. Hilary Mtiambai, Inspector General of Police, and Lieutenant General Francis Omondo Gola, the Vice Chief of the Defense Forces. That was the team. The message was that if I declared the final election results in favor of Honorable William Samoei Ruto as president-elect, the country is going to burn. He went on to caution that if we proceeded with the declaration of Honorable Ruto as president-elect and chaos erupt, then the blood of Kenyans, the blood of the dead Kenyans will be on our hands.
Monday, former Commissioner Abdi Guli and Boya Molo appeared before the tribunal, also testifying that they were put under pressure to declare Raila Odinga as the president or force a runoff in last year's general election. Meanwhile, efforts by the Azimio One Kenya coalition party to join the proceedings of the tribunal probing the conduct of the 4 former IBC commissioners have flopped. This is after the 9-member tribunal led by appellate Judge Aggrey Muchelule declined the application, citing, among other things, time constraints. The tribunal is set to reconvene on the 9th of February for the last submissions. Muige William, TV47, Nairobi.
And away from that, a family in Tono village, Bobasi constituency in Kisii County is crying for justice after their 5-year-old son disappeared under unclear circumstances on the 9th of December 2022 while under the custody of his grandmother, who is now accused of selling the boy. This even as religious organizations in Busia team up with the county government to fight human trafficking that has been rampant in the region.
After the death of her husband, Florence Nyandoro allegedly approached her daughter Faith Bosibori to request for permission to stay with her children, to keep her company and ease the loneliness brought about by the death of their grandfather last year. However, Bosibori would soon be informed of her son's disappearance in unclear circumstances. According to 10-year-old Eugene Obama, a woman named Mary Kerubo visited her grandmother for 2 days and left, only to resurface on 9th December, the last day that Eugene set his eyes on his younger brother.
Halafu akaenda na tena kuja kurudi siku ya Ijumaa. Sisi tukatumwa mtoni tulete maji tuoge na sisi. Tukaleta maji. Tukaanza kutafuta mtoto tuende, kuna mahali tulipanga tunaenda. Ndio tupige mpira, nikaanza kumtafuta akanikosa, nikauliza nyanyangu mtoto ako wapi? Akaniambia mimi sijui mahali mtoto ako.
When she got wind of her son's disappearance, Bosibori confronted her mother but was scared off by threats and beatings, and after filing a report at the Kenyenya police station, her mother was arrested, charged at Ogembo Law Courts and later released on a 50,000 bond by her uncles.
Kaenda polisi wakanimalizia, wakaenda wakashika mama yangu. Fanya mama yangu alishikwa, ndugu yangu akatoroka. Kufungua mlango nikapata watu wengi wenye ambao sijui, kuangalia sijui. Ninapigwa na mafimbo, wako na mapanga.
The distraught mother is now asking for the government's intervention to reunite her with her son, even as she narrates fears for her life, alleging a plot to kill her by her uncles and mother. Meanwhile, religious organizations in Busia have launched a sensitization of the public in an effort to fight human trafficking, even as lack of legal knowledge, poverty, and loopholes to enter the neighboring counties illegally have been named as the highest contributors to the spike in cases of human trafficking.
Kuja kuhamasisha jamii zetu, tuambie ulanguzi wa wanadamu ni nini, unatendeka namna gani.
Most children are affected, and the children that are affected are between ages 10 to 16. And you see this kind of age group, they do not give consent because they are not yet 18 years.
According to the most recent report released by the Children's Services in 2020, approximately 17,500 people are trafficked in Kenya every year, half of the victims being minors. Sylvia Nyongesa, TV47.
All right, man, thanks for that, Sylvia Nyongesa. And I believe my news is over. Deno is right here with me. Dennis Otieno, how are you?
I'm very fine, Stanley Nyaringita. Quite amazing to be with you for the first time.
For the first time, imagine with all this time, you're looking sharp. Real quick before you get into this particular story of Arsenal fans being jailed, Arsenal of all tips. How do you remember Professor George Magoha?
I mean, first of all, it is quite sad to get to hear the news of his demise. A very energetic cabinet secretary that we had who actually streamlined matters education in the country. But what I really remember Professor George Magoha for was his stern action and all this strictness that he brought about.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a time that he was asked a question by a fellow journalist, and he was very, very strict in how he answered the questions.
Yeah,
but regardless of all that, it is the changes that Professor George Magoha actually brought into the education scene in the country, Stanley.
Indeed, and I think of your own, one of my colleagues was saying the driver of Professor George Magoha really had a difficult time waking up around 4 a.m. just to have those particular meetings at 6 a.m. But then we'll definitely be talking a lot about Professor Magoha. You do sports, then we'll come back and talk more, right?
Absolutely, Stanley. Tonight, so much lined up for you in the world of sports. The legendary rugby player Colin Sinjera making a big announcement. We'll be telling you exactly what. We shall also be giving you the latest happenings in the world of football. All this coming up in the sports news.